TIFU by exposing my uncle's foot fetish at a family lunch. Using a throwaway for reasons which will become clear. For context, I'm a second-year medical resident. That's as much identifying information that I'm willing to provide. But my job is relevant to this story. The names in this story are not the real names of the people involved. So, I've had a foot fetish for as long as I can remember. No idea where it started. I've just always looked at women in. If their feet were visible, like if they were wearing flip-flops, I'd check them out. Not in a creepy, all-consuming way. Just that I thought attractive feet added to a woman's overall beauty. Years ago when I was still in med school, I'd gone round to my cousin's place one afternoon because we were going to see a movie that night. I got there around 3, but he wasn't scheduled to get off work until 6. So he left a spare key out and I let myself in. I'd brought a bunch of schoolwork to keep myself occupied until he got home. While I was there, my Aunt Kate came by to drop off some food and we started making small talk. Now it's important to interject here and let you know that my aunt is an attractive woman. Not like an aunt that you'd see in porn, but still attractive, and at that time was in her early 40s. In addition, she has really attractive feet that are always pedicured with nail polish, etc. I've never thought of her as a person sexually. But she just has really attractive feet. She asked how med school was going and what I was studying at the time. I mentioned that I was studying for an anatomy exam and, in particular, the musculoskeletal system. There was a bit more chit-chat, and before she left, she wished me luck for the exam and said if there's anything she could do to help, to let her know. I don't know why I did what I did next. Chalk it up to being a horny early 20-something, but I took her up on her offer. I told her that actually, there was one area I was struggling with, and if she had 10 minutes, would she mind helping me out with something? She agreed and asked what it was. I told her I was having trouble wrapping my head around the musculoskeletal makeup of the ankle and foot. And would she mind if I used her feet as a reference point for a few minutes? She was more than happy to oblige. And so I brought all of my books and paperwork over to the couch. She sat on the couch and I sat on a beanbag. For the next 15 minutes I basically gave her a foot massage while hiding a boner harder than Chinese algebra. Taking a few notes in my notebook every few minutes to make it seem legit. She just watched TV while I did it, occasionally commenting about how it just felt like she was getting a foot massage, and that it felt nice. I finished up before it went on for too long as I didn't want her to get suspicious, and thanked her for helping me out. I mentioned I was going to go to the bathroom to wash my hands, and while I was there I busted one of the most intense nuts I've ever had to do this day. It was hard to look at myself in the mirror after that one. I had never told anyone about that incident, and I assume that she never told anyone either. It's been probably 10 years ago now and it's never been mentioned before now. Fast forward to a recent family gathering we had just after Christmas. From the moment my aunt and uncle walk in, you can tell they've been arguing in the car. They had that look about them where they were annoyed at one another. Had agreed to put the matter aside until later, but were still getting in little jabs here and there when they could. During lunch, one of my cousins makes a joke about how they're bringing down the mood of the event, and asked if they wanted to get it out into the air and that the family could act like a bit of a mediator for their argument. Well, this just added a lot of fuel to the fire. Without going into the finer details of their argument, my uncle had basically accused my aunt of, amongst other things, being selfish and unwilling to sacrifice her own time for anything that didn't directly benefit her. She started rattling off historical examples of circumstances in which she had been selfless in offered her time to others. And among her examples she listed, "And what about the time I let Jack rub my feet for his med school exam?" Single quote. I froze. And I could feel everyone's eyes turn to look at me. I quickly explained that I wasn't rubbing her feet. But I was in the middle of some anatomy study and used her feet as an example for some diagrams I was referencing. She backed me up and said yes. It was for study. And this seemed to quell the weird looks that people were giving me. My uncle, however, explodes. "Oh, so you let Jack rub your feet but your husband, ask and you think it's gross that I find your feet attractive?" Quote. A silence falls over the room and everyone looks at them. My aunt goes into damage control, insisting that they talk about this later. But my uncle isn't having any of it. She insists that she was just helping me out with some med school study and that it wasn't a big deal. Oh, so helping Jack out with schoolwork isn't a big deal. But when your husband asks to give you a foot rub on our date night, then that makes you uncomfortable. Quote. At this point, half the family is stifling back laughter while the other half is trying to diffuse the situation, suggesting that they just go to separate rooms and chill out for a little while. My uncle agrees and walks off down the hall, still trailing off about, "Yeah, you'll go to a room with Jack and get another foot rub. But you won't let me touch them after I've paid for your pedicure." Over the last few days I've had a few people ask me why I decided to choose my aunt, of all people, to study the feet of all that time ago. And I've just palmed it off as her being there at the right time and place for what I was studying. And while some people have said it's a bit weird, they haven't asked any questions past that. I'm anticipating every extended family dinner from now on being very awkward, however. Now that everyone knows I massaged the feet of the aunt who won't accommodate her husband's foot fetish. TLD, years ago I gave my aunt a foot massage under the guise of med school study. And recently, during an extended family dinner, we discovered my uncle has a foot fetish but my aunt won't let him touch her feet. Are we just going to ignore the fact you jacked off because you got turned on by your aunt's feet? LMAO. Cool story, nephew. Tomorrow's post. TIFU by exposing my incestuous foot fetish to the internet. Geez, I hope none of your family visit this sub. I think the foo here is you getting turned on and jacking off to your aunt's feet. Not exposing your uncle for thinking his own wife's feet are attractive. Yeah, that's the script to a porn movie, I bet. Congrats, any of your family reading this will absolutely easily be able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out this is you. This is a wild ride. I hope to hell it's his bio uncle's wife, not his parents' sister. But judging by the fact that Op didn't clarify, I think we all know whose feet he whacked to. Maybe he can repair his relationship with his uncle by bonding over how hot his wife's feet are. Op ignored the real TIFU. You lied to your aunt so you could touch her feet and get sexual pleasure from it. That's creepy as fuck, dude. LMAO, this reminded me of when my cousin found my uncle's porn history and came running out like, "Uncle Bob has been watching something called Girlfriend Footage, OMG." And every started laughing and making fun of his foot fetish like, "What girlfriend footage? What does that even mean?" Until the one person with a functioning brain in the room said, You mean footage?" Quote. Dude, this doesn't help our image. I promise anyone who sees this, all foot guys are not into their aunt's feet. This story is so unique. And Reddit isn't actually unknown. No doubt Op will be outed by a family member before too long. Is your uncle Marcellus Wallace? If so, you might want to look out. Interesting that you and the UNC are into the same kink. I've often wondered if fetishes are hereditary, runs in families. I know of a family where 3 of the 4 siblings have a foot fetish too. It's been probably 10 years ago now. Fix your timeline. Med school is 4 years. Anatomy is a first-year course. You are a second-year resident. Unless you are in your early 30s. Something's off. And you had issues in school. Or had issues matching. Your uncle's so jealous, LMAO. Gotta say this. Roping your aunt into your foot fetish, especially without her knowledge or consent, under the guise of a medical exam, was super uncool. Please don't do that again. That was the foo.
Exclamation mark GIF.
Reminds me of the time I was going to commission someone I knew that was in art school to draw something for me. We got to chatting, and he asked if I could send like reference photos to model for him. I was like, yeah, sure. I live in a neat area, so I could probably get someone to take pictures of me. And he said he was working on drawing hands and feet and asked for pictures of those specifically. At that point, I just totally stopped responding LMAO. I think the real fuck up here is that you used your position and/or title as a med school student, no less, to take advantage of not just any woman, but your fucking aunt, for sexual pleasure. Please go to hell. Op. I would not trust you as my doctor. Look, I'm not going to turn down a normal foot massage. But lick my toes once and I will never trust you again. Make weird noises or get into it in a way that makes it weird for me? I will nope right out. Your aunt knows where your uncle goes and has set boundaries. Pray she never finds out about your ulterior motives all those years ago. She will feel beyond violated.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.